Welcome to Inspiring Business with your host, Mark Bullock, who is the co-founder of videosocials.net and of videointerviewpodcast.com. In every episode, Mark interviews business and organizational thought leaders who share their stories of how they inspire others by making a difference. You can find this show on videosocials.net and YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and almost any podcast platform of your choosing.
Welcome. And today I'm delighted to have as a guest, Jeff Goldberg. Jeff and I have known each other for quite a bit of time, although we haven't worked all that closely together, but I really like what Jeff stands for. He's a sales expert and a stand-up comedian. In short, Jeff considers himself a sales problem solver. Welcome, Jeff. It's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me, Mark. I really appreciate it.
Terrific. And one of the things I like to start with, the first question that I want to ask you is, how long have you been in sales and what got you into sales in the first place? And really kind of expand on that from a standpoint of, what's your story? How, not everybody jumps in and wants to be a salesperson, when they grow up and you're a consummate sales professional. So what had you do what you do?
What a great question. First, let me agree that almost nobody goes into sales on purpose. Most people go into it by accident. I'm no exception. I'd love to tell my story like Steve Martin and the Jerk, starting out with, I was born a poor black child, but I wasn't. My sales story is this. My father, my stepfather, and both grandfathers were career salespeople, and none of them ever really made a penny in their lives. And I swore I would never, ever go into sales under any circumstances. I found myself at Baruch College in New York City, which is in an office building. We used to call it UCLA, the university on the corner of Lexington Avenue. And I went there because my guidance counselor in high school said I should be an accountant. I had no direction in life. So I said, okay, I'm going to be an accountant. What the heck do I know? Went to Baruch because at the time it was known as an accounting school. And I found out that very quickly, I had no desire to be an accountant. That was absolutely not what my life was going to be about. In fact, the only classes I really went to were my marketing and psychology classes because those were the only things that interested me. And because I was wasting so much time, I decided to get a part-time job at a furniture store a block away doing customer service and ordering, payroll and things like that. One day on a Saturday, one of the salespeople didn't show up because he was sick and we were very busy. And the boss came to me and said, Jeff, go sell those people. There was a couple in the showroom just wandering around. And I said, I don't know how to sell. What are you talking about? I'm your customer service guy. And he handed me a legal pad and a pen. It was bigger than, full-size legal pad and a pen. And he went like this, walk around the showroom, smile a lot. He literally did this, smile a lot, write down what they want, come back, tell me what they're looking for. I'll give you the pricing. That's sales. And 48 years later, I'm not only selling, but I'm teaching people other people how to sell. I sold Encyclopedia Britannica for 8 years, and I was very fortunate to get that job because they had an incredible sales training program. Actually, not a great sales training program, but a great program for how to sell Encyclopedia Britannica, which was based on many sales principles. And I, at the time, felt I was too stupid to know what to do, so I was just going to listen to what they said. And I did everything exactly as I was told to do. And I became incredibly successful there. In fact, I was one in the top 10 out of 2,500 salespeople nationwide within the first 30 days, just because I followed instructions. They also saw in me something that I didn't see. They saw that I should become a manager. And I was like, I'm not a manager guy, I'm a sales guy. And they trained me how to be a manager. And that's where I learned the art and science of sales management. And that's my career. I went from job to job, whether selling or managing salespeople. And at one point, I had shut down a business of my own. I was a recruiter in 2001 when the bottom dropped out of the economy. It became very difficult to find jobs for people because companies were laying off by the tens of thousands. And in hindsight, I should have listened to my now ex-wife who said, go get a real job. I should have listened much sooner. But about 2 years later, I realized she was right. And I really needed to find a real job. And I answered a blind ad in the New York Times, which turned out to be for a very large, at the time, well-known sales training company. And that's where I discovered that this was the job I'd been meant to do all my life. I truly love helping people. Don't get me wrong. I like getting paid for helping people, but I really am a giver. I like helping people, and I understand sales. So selling and delivering sales training was perfect for me. I also like to be the center of attention. So standing in front of an audience for 7 or 8 hours at a time, having them to listen to me was kind of heavenly, and getting paid for it was terrific. And I went to my wife and said, I'm going to make us rich. I'm going to quit this job. I'm going to open up another company. I'm going to open up my own sales training company. She said, well, you can do that, but you're going to be married to somebody else. And the day she signed the divorce papers was the day I opened up Jeff Goldberg and Associates. And that's been 18 years now.
Awesome. What fascinates me is that, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I've owned 5 companies, done very well, crashed and burned, on one occasion as well. So, and I think we all learn from those experiences, but, I too, it's so funny because back in the day, Tom Hopkins and Zig Ziglar and et cetera, and I read that. I didn't know sales, and I ended up going into car sales because of a job that didn't work out, and well, give it a try. Had no idea what I was doing, and I read the books and did what they said to do, and like you, it was like I floated to the top very quickly. And then, the entrepreneurial bug kicked in, and you've got to do sales if you're going to be an entrepreneur. I mean, you have to be a rainmaker. So, it's funny. Sales is one of the professions that I have carried my entire professional career after the military. So, some similarities there. It's like I never intended to get into sales, but and just followed the instructions and did it. But what I really want to key in on now, though, is I know that your business is about, as well as our business is about, positively impacting other people's lives. And how do you think that your company, your knowledge set, your experience really makes that difference in people's lives?
Oh, that's actually an easy one. I teach individuals and organizations that they work, that they work for, how to increase their sales. Nobody's hiring me for my good looks. I guarantee it. People hire me because I can teach them and help them to sell more effectively, to get more appointments with decision makers, to have a shorter sales cycle, to close more business more profitably. So I help people get bigger paychecks. I help people support their companies, support themselves, support their families. I was just asked this recently, what is it that you really enjoy about your job? And I enjoy lots of what I do. There's a few things I don't like, but for the most part, I love what I do. But one of my favorite things is when I get a text or an email or a call saying, Jeff, I just closed a deal. I absolutely would not have closed it if you hadn't told me X. Or I just got a promotion to manager. If you hadn't shown me the way, I wouldn't have. I mean, that's unbelievably rewarding, knowing that I'm impacting people and the people around them and the families they work for simply by giving them advice and training and coaching. And you mentioned, entrepreneurs. I work with lots of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, especially because you said it. When you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur like myself, you're usually good at the thing that you're selling. Whether it's a product or service, you're good at that, but you usually don't know how to sell. And I don't care how good you are at selling. You've been at it a long time. I'm considered an expert at it, but I'm not good enough to close anybody on anything that they don't want, don't need, or can't afford. And fortunately, that's not my job. My job, and any salesperson's job, is simply, how do I have enough conversations with people that end up, some of them, choosing to do business with me? So that's really what makes me feel the best, knowing that I'm helping people achieve their goals.
Right. And I think that's really, I don't want to say the line in the sand, but that's the pivot point for me. Because it's like, I like you, I have no interest in trying to sell somebody something. I really don't. I have an interest in helping people solve problems, move forward in life, increase their productivity at whatever it is. My mission statement is I make a difference in the world for those who make a difference in the world. So all our services are based around that, et cetera. And that's not hyperbole. That is just who we are. We're looking to help people move forward. Not everybody's going to be a great fit for whatever it is that you're selling, right? And I've often said, no, it doesn't need to be just win-win. It needs to be a unilateral win, where everybody is benefiting from whatever the transaction is, right? And those transactions are to a large extent based on relationships. And the relationships are human to human. And I've often said, and from a long-time client, I learned the phrase, it's not just business, it is personal. And I've really taken that to heart, because if we're doing it to actually make a difference in people's lives, it inspires others to want to work with us, and inspires others to take our advice and take our coaching and our training and et cetera to heart. So, which I guess really I'm starting to answer the question that I was getting ready to ask you, which is, how do you find your clients, and what are you doing to inspire people to want to work with you?
Yeah, I want to take a sidestep for just a minute, and if I don't remember, refresh my memory on that question. But you have the right mindset for selling, and you even mentioned the name Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar was a famous motivational speaker. He was a sales trainer too. His sales training actually wasn't that good, but his motivational stuff was terrific. And Zig used to say, and I was honored to have been in his audience more than once, he used to say that the word sell, comes from the Swedish word selja, S-E-L-J-E, which he claimed meant to serve. Now, I love the thought of that. It turns out I'm the kind of nerdy guy that when I hear something like that, I looked it up. It does not mean to serve in Sweden. But that's what the right mentality, it's a servant mentality. It's, I'm here to help you. If I can, I'm going to offer that to you. And if I can't, you won't have to tell me. I'll be the first to tell you I'm not right for you. Let me introduce you to somebody else. But that's why you're successful in sales, Mark, because you come from a servant mentality. Salespeople's job is simply to figure out, can I serve you? If so, let them know how you can help, and then let people decide. Now, in terms of your question, which was, how do I attract people to me? How do I find people? It's one of the things that I love speaking about, because it's the number one challenge of almost every coaching client I take on, and every sales organization I walk into. Their salespeople simply are not speaking to enough prospects, because it doesn't matter how much experience you've got. Almost 5 decades in sales, and I'm considered expert level. But if I'm not talking to enough people, I can't close enough business. So I use several methods for attracting people to me. First of all, I no longer cold call, although I still believe that cold calling on the telephone is the most cost-effective and time-efficient way to fill up your calendar with appointments if you don't have enough. If you do it well, and if you do it consistently. I don't do it because, I do it once a month just to make sure that what I'm teaching people still works. But I'd rather live in my car than ever have to do that again. But I built my business by, when I left the company I was working for, I had nothing to do except sit on the phone all day and set appointments.
Right.
Today, I use several other methods. I became very good at networking. You and I both know Ellen Volpe of ABA. I've been in that group for 18 years, and 40% of my business comes from the people in that group trusting me enough to introduce me to other people. I use LinkedIn. 30% of my business comes from LinkedIn, and not the way most people think. It's not me reaching out to people and say, hey, thank you for connecting. Do you need any sales training or any sales coaching today? I would absolutely never do that. Right. What I do is I do what I consider content marketing. I am consistently posting videos, memes, information on LinkedIn, the same information that I charge people for, just giving advice freely and what I consider generously, because I find that gets people raising their hand and reaching out to me saying, hey, I really like your stuff. I'd like to talk to you about being my coach. I'd like to talk to you about training my company. So I love using LinkedIn. Referrals from your current and past clients. You're crazy if you're not doing the right thing for them and asking for referrals. I get a substantial amount of business from that. Of course, I have a sales group on Facebook with a little less than 1,300 members. Some business comes from that. I just a week and a half ago announced that I've got online sales training programs. So some business is coming that way from various marketing online. But that's the way I attract people into my life, by doing the right thing, by giving generously, and having people reach out to me. I'm not against people who are being proactive and reaching out one-on-one. Fine, as long as you do it the right way. And again, using LinkedIn to connect to somebody and then immediately pitching them, it's 100% the wrong way. But there's lots of ways to get business. In my professional prospecting program, I talk about a bunch of them. I always suggest, Mark, that people need to try everything that they're willing to do. Like, I'm not willing to cold call. You're not willing to cold call? Don't do it. But try everything else that you're willing to do. See what works for you, test and measure, refine it, and then stick with what works and get rid of what doesn't.
Absolutely. And I'm going to take something that you said and use it as a segue. As you know, we're self-sponsored in this, and so Practice Marketing Inc. has been around about 15 years, and we have 3 services that we focus on. One is phoneblogger.net, one is videosocials.net, and one is videointerviewpodcast.com. And all of them do exactly what you just keyed in on, which is using authentic, educational, and informational content to put in front of people in a way that they want to consume it, that's of value for them, and is not it is not trying to grab somebody, sell them something before you even met them, right? Which is what so many, I think, is a huge mistake that so many people make. It's like features and benefits, and why you want to work with us, Why not just help them by being generous, learn how to, or at least explore options that they have to resolve issues, overcome problems, move forward in life. So our entire company is all about helping you to create that content. And whether it be in the written word through phoneblogger.net, whether it be through video blogs or short video articles, text articles, video articles, etc., with video socials. Not everybody is comfortable jumping up on stage, for 8 hours and having a conversation, and even less people are comfortable having a conversation to a camera. And that's where video socials really comes into play, because we get together as a group of professionals and practice and experiment and learn with each other doing it together. So it's kind of a networking group, although that's not what we set it up, but it is professionals that are learning by doing. And so love to have you as a guest. Videosocials.net. Just click on the guest tab at the top of the screen. There's no cost. There's no obligation. We'd love to meet you and explore whether or not it's something that would make sense for you. And then if you are comfortable on video and you want to do these types of videos that you and I are doing today, Jeff, there's a lot of logistics that go behind doing something like this. As you know, you have your own podcast. We'll cover that in a second. And in doing so, it might just be more than you've got, staffing to do, or you've got time to do. And in that case, we have an entire system and program where we provide all that back end labor, all of those logistics, et cetera, so that you're not, chasing people around to get the interview scheduled and dealing with the technology and where to post it, and how to post it, and how to market it, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's videointerviewpodcast.com. And I think it would probably be a good time, Jeff, for us to talk about, how would people reach you? And I really wanted to start with, the Sales Pro Network podcast, which is your podcast. And then we're going to have a whole bunch of links that are tied with this, because you're immersed in social media and you provide a bunch of free information for people to learn how to be better sales professionals. But what do you do with your podcast? What is your podcast about?
Thanks for asking. But before I get to that, I just like to say that you and your partner, Vic, are amazing at what you do. I've been fortunate enough to be invited to sit in on Video Socials a couple of times. And for me, it's kind of like going to, oh boy, I just forgot the name of it. Toastmasters. I went to a Toastmasters meeting years after being a professional speaker, and it's great for people just starting out. But Video Socials, for somebody who's not really experienced at this, absolutely fantastic. And you and Vic are incredibly generous with your advice. And I'm actually a client of you guys for promoting my podcast. You guys just do an amazing job. And don't tell Vic I said this, but the price is really incredibly reasonable. I don't want to raise it on me, but really, I really enjoy working with you guys. My podcast, you can find it where any podcast is. The Sales Pro Network is a group I formed on Facebook. I can't remember whether it was 2 or 3 years ago, because I'm committed to elevating the profession of sales. Sales has a bad reputation because there are still some people who will lie, cheat, and steal. And years ago, it was way more prevalent. And we have to overcome a bad reputation. if people are going to like us and trust us, and they need to in order to do business with us, because you said it, it is about the relationship. I want to elevate the profession of sales in general. So I formed this group on Facebook to be a place to elevate the profession of sales, where salespeople can hang out and network with each other, where they can ask questions. I interview somebody live at 10 a.m. Eastern every Friday morning, somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. Quite often it's my direct competitors. So they're all hanging out there. So anybody can come in, ask questions, get great advice, get great coaching, and learn how to help elevate the profession of sales and make more money at the same time. So it's in my, anybody's welcome to join the group, the Sales Pro Network. It goes to my LinkedIn feed also, because I'm using Streamline just like you are. And I also have a YouTube channel for the Sales Pro Network.
Awesome. And again, as mentioned, you're on the web, obviously, with jgsalespro.com, LinkedIn, Jeff Goldberg, sales coach. And I'm not going to try to pronounce all of them, but there'll be links for all of this. But definitely check out Jeff's podcast at the very least.
You can Google me, Mark. I'm easy to find. Just make sure that you're spelling the right name, because quite often it's like Jeff Goldblum. No. Taller, handsomer, makes way more money. Very talented actor. That's not me. I'm Jeff Goldberg.
That's fantastic. So, coming back to why we're here, which is really, what advice would you have for people who sell?
Wow. Well, typically that fills up a full day of a seminar, but certainly I have a couple of thoughts. One is that you don't have to be a rocket scientist to be in sales. You really don't. And I feel qualified to say that because my oldest daughter, just graduated college at the University of Virginia with a degree in aerospace engineering. She is a literal rocket scientist. You don't have to be as smart as my daughter Avery to be in sales. Clearly, you don't have to be. So you only need half a brain as far as I'm concerned. The advice I would have for any salesperson: one, study. It's a career. It's not just a job. And there's lots and lots of great books, videos, webinars, seminars you can go to live. I've been doing it for a long, long time, and I'm at expert level, but I still read most of the books that come out. I still go to seminars because somebody else knows something that I don't, and I'm always learning. So keep learning, absolutely. Invest the time to be good at it. Most salespeople never read a sales book, don't go to a seminar unless their company forces them to. Number two, prospect consistently and effectively. Any day that you don't prospect as a salesperson is a day that somewhere down the line you can't get paid. And if there was a relationship between prospecting today and getting paid tomorrow, we'd all prospect every day. If I could get paid tomorrow for prospecting I did today, all I would do is prospect just every single day. But I'll just give a quick example. I sell 4 services. One of them is sales training for corporations. From the time I first speak with somebody, whether I reached out to them or they reached out to me, till the time I get their money in my hands, it's 4.5 months. Now, there's a lot of stuff that happens in that 4.5 months, but it's 4.5 months. So that means if I don't prospect today, I can't get paid 4.5 months from today. And if I don't prospect tomorrow, I can't get paid 4.5 months from tomorrow. Now, I own my company, so when the checks come in, I get the money, so I don't need to get paid every day. But 2 of my kids are still in college. One just graduated and still needs a little help. And I've got an ex-wife who needs to get paid and a dog that needs to go to the vet this afternoon. So dad needs to keep making money. So prospect consistently is one thing. The other thing, and this is what I consider the most important piece of advice that I give salespeople out of all the things I teach salespeople, I consider this, what I'm about to share with you, the most important thing. I hear all the time about, Jeff, how do I stop from getting ghosted? I've given a proposal, or I've had good conversations, and people stop returning my calls, stop returning my emails. So here's how you fix that. Use what I call the BNAS, which stands for Best Next Action Step philosophy. And it simply means this: never, ever leave a meeting or a phone call without setting up the next meeting or phone call right then and there. Now, I've got like a 20-minute explanation for that. We don't have time for it, but the typical salesperson ends a meeting by saying, all right, I'll do some thinking. I'll write up a proposal. I'll send it over to you. And then you can get back to me, or I'll give you a call and we can talk about it. And it's leaving it nebulous. The way to end the meeting is, hey, Mark, this has been a great meeting. Here's what I'd like to do. I want to go back to my office, think about what we talked about, put together an outline of ideas on how we can increase sales at your company. And I'd like to come back and share that outline of ideas with you next Tuesday at 3. When you agree to that, 1, I know I'm going to meet with you again. We're going to move forward in the process. And 2, I know you're interested. because
Right.
a busy executive doesn't give you some of their time and then agree to give you more of their time unless they're interested. So that's my best advice for any salesperson. Never leave a meeting or a phone call without setting up the next meeting or phone call right then and there.
Absolutely agree with everything that you said.
Oh, and I'm going to throw in something you said earlier. Be authentic.
Yeah.
I often see salespeople in my coaching practice that when they're speaking to prospects on the phone, or I actually go on sales calls with people, they put on this sales persona, this business voice. Stop doing that. Just be you. You said it before. Sales is about two things, relationship and value. And that has not changed in the last almost 50 years that I've been doing this. Lots has changed. But one thing that hasn't is people still do business with people. So just be authentic. Now, you don't want to be talking about sex or religion or politics with prospects. That's a little too authentic. And some people tend to use inappropriate humor. Everybody thinks they're funny. Not everybody is, but just have a real conversation with people. That's the key to selling. It's not your brilliant presentation skills, and it's not your strong closing skills. It's the ability to ask great questions, listen actively to the answers, which most salespeople suck at, and to tell great stories. That's all you need to do.
Boy, you need to like encapsulate that and put that on the wall for people.
I'm preaching it constantly, Mark. I'm preaching it constantly.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that I often say when somebody, I don't want to sit and focus on video socials too much, but when people come into video socials, it's like they think that, okay, it's 11 o'clock news, right? I've got to present something. Stop presenting and have a conversation. It's basically what it comes down to. When you're whether we're sitting across the desk from each other via camera right now, right? So we're having a conversation. That's what's attractive about this particular modality. But we're having an authentic conversation about who we are and what our goals and aspirations are and how we help people. And that's something that if people don't know that this is real, then they're missing something, because it is. This is just you and I having a conversation about what we're passionate about and what we do. Yep. And there's nothing, there's no covers that we're trying to, there's no air or presentation that we're trying to put out there, because Jeffrey Goodheimer, I think, said this: people hate to be sold, but they love to buy. And I kind of translate as they hate to be convinced of something or have somebody try to talk them into something, but they love to solve problems. And they love to work with people that they like and that they can trust. And if they can't like you, if you're presenting on something that's designed to try to get something out of them.
No, you said the right word, Mark. You said the word conversation, and that's exactly what it is. So most people think that sales is about convincing or persuading or talking people into things. It's actually not. Here's my definition of selling, and it's very simple. Sales is a conversation or series of conversations leading to help the other person choose to do business with you. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. So you got to have a lot of them, but it's really just about, that's what I teach people. How do you have a better conversation? How do you have I often meet people, well, I'm an introvert, I can't sell. I know lots of introverts who are great at selling. Is it easier if you're an extrovert? Absolutely. There are certain traits and characteristics that tend to make you more likely to succeed in sales. But if you don't have them, it doesn't mean you can't be. I happen to be born with a bunch of, I'm friendly, I'm outgoing, I'm funny, I'm honest, I like to serve, I'm articulate. But I've met lots of people who can barely string a sentence together. As long as they can have a conversation and ask great questions and be a good listener, they can still sell.
Absolutely.
It's a 4-letter word, but it's not a bad word.
Yeah, and I'll add to that in the fact that I joined Toastmasters 30-something years ago, and I gave my first talk, introducing myself, and almost passed out. I was so terrified, and because I am an introvert. And it's just fascinating to me that, the only way that I can sell is to be authentic, is to have a conversation, because I can't abide or consider trying to convince somebody to do something that they don't want to do, or buy something that they don't want to buy. It's like, what, life's too short.
You can't, Mark. Unless you're willing to lie, cheat, or steal, you can't do that. And I'm not willing to. You're not willing to. It just
Right.
doesn't work that way. It's just,
Right.
how do you have an authentic conversation enough times with enough people so that some of them say, sign me up, baby. I want some of you.
Outstanding, my friend. Well, listen, I want to, we could go on all day, but I do want to try to close this up. And one of the things that we have a little form that we asked, or I asked my guests to fill out ahead of time. And one of the things I asked is, what inspires you? And your answer was people who keep their word, even when it's difficult, people who care as much about others as they do about themselves. Love that. And generosity, integrity, and dogs. And I got to tell you, buddy, we are very much in alignment. You're very much in alignment. Even though you're an extrovert and I'm an introvert by nature, we're right on the same page. We've got to care about other people, and if we care about other people, we're not going to try to talk them into something. We're going to help facilitate. Sharon Drew Morgan, I think, wrote a book on sales facilitation. And I really kind of attached to that myself, because it's just like, look, whatever it is that you're trying to bring to the table, you're interrupting something they're already doing. You're looking to have them make a change, and people are resistant to change. And so if you can just be the facilitator of, well, what would that change be like? What would be the value to you if you were willing to go through that change?
On the
Huge.
One of my favorite questions to ask on a sales call, and just about anybody can use something like this. So let's say you're a vice president of sales. You got a bunch of salespeople. I want to do sales training for your company. At some point, you're going to hear me say this. Hey, Mark, let's say you and I agree that we're going to work together. Notice I did not say, let's say you decide to work with me. Let's say you and I agree that we're going to work together. And we're sitting here in your office, or we're on Zoom or StreamYard 6 months from now. What would have to have happened in the last 6 months for you to say to me, wow, I am so glad that I decided to work with you, Jeff? Well, right. when your prospect answers that question, they're telling you exactly what they want. And that's all it's about. If you can give that to them, that's all you got to say. That's exactly what I'm going to do for you. Oh, you want your salespeople to get more appointments? I'm going to help them do that. You want a shorter sales cycle? That's exactly what we're going to. Whatever they tell you they want, if you have the ability to give it to them, that's selling. They'll tell you that they usually know. Now, sometimes you have to point them in the right direction, because what they think they want is not what they actually need. Yeah. That's called being the challenger. But it's really just, how do you have enough conversations, find out what would really help them, and then show them how you're going to give it to them. And then ask for the business. I would love it if every sales process ended with, sign me up, Jeff. And sometimes that does happen, but usually we still have to invite people to do business with us at the end. We call that closing, by asking some type of a question. Will you sign on the dotted line? Or, the way I have a particular close that I teach and use, but at some point you have to invite people to buy. And I like the word invite, because in a true invitation, you want people to accept your invitation, but you're okay with it if they don't. If I was having a party, I live at the beach. Hey, Mark, come on out to my house. We'll hang out at the beach this Saturday. I'm gonna have a bunch of people over. We'll have cocktails and a great time. Blah blah blah. I'd like it if you said yes, but if you said no, I'd like, okay, no problem. Maybe next time, because I'm always going to be talking to enough people so that while I'd love to have Mark Bullock at my party, there's going to be enough people there anyways, and maybe I'll get him another time.
The word invitation, I think, is also pivotal, and literally we could go on for days. But I did want to wrap up with that, because I think that may be one of the most important things that you've said today, and that is understanding it's always their choice, but it's our job as entrepreneurs, professional salespeople, whatever it is, to be able to present that choice, to be able to put that information to help them see what choice they're making, so that they can make a powerful choice, and using the mindset of an invitation versus a close. I never use the word close anymore because of that. And I realize that, there's nothing wrong with it, but in my mind, it's all about inviting people.
Yeah, well, the truth is, when you close, you don't really close anything. You're opening up a new relationship.
Exactly.
And by the way, I just want to point out, there's no party Saturday. I'm doing an outdoor stand-up comedy gig this Saturday, so don't show up at my house, Mark.
Okay. So I'm remiss, because I really did want to find out. So you're a stand-up comedian, but why'd you get into that? And how did that work out? Let's
throw
that in.
all my life, I'm one of those guys. You should be a stand-up comedian. You know, you're so funny. I was a class clown. I can't tell you how many times my mom was called into school. And you know, he never shuts up. He doesn't raise his hand. He just wants to make the class laugh. And I do full-day seminars for large corporations for their salespeople, and in order to keep them involved and awake. You know, as fascinating as I think I am, you can't listen to me drone on for 7 or 8 hours without falling asleep. So I've always used humor to keep people involved and keep them, you know, excited. And 2 years ago, I was talking to my coach, and she said, you know, every now and then you step over the line, Jeff, and you say something that's not appropriate. And why do you do that? I'm like, you know, if the funny's on my mind, I just got to get it out. And, you know, I realize that when I'm saying it, I always make promises I'll never do it again. I'm aware when I'm doing it. And she said, well, why don't you go do stand-up comedy? And this was 2 years ago. And I said, Liz, I'm 66 years old. I'm not changing careers now. And she said, Jeff, they do it at night. Go work during the day, then go do stand-up comedy at night and say whatever you want. I signed up for a class, and 6 weeks later, I was in front of 230 people at Governor's on Long Island, making them laugh, giving them the gift of laughter, and I haven't stopped. It's heavenly. It's truly. If I had a do-over, I probably would not become a sales expert. I would be a stand-up comedian, giving people the gift of laughter, because it's truly a joyous experience to be able to give that gift. You know, we live in crazy times, Mark. You know, I don't know your age, but I think you're fairly close to me. We've seen crazy stuff, but not as crazy as it is right now. And I think people need to laugh. And so I love doing stand-up. It's heavenly.
That's fantastic, Jeff. And with that, I am going to close up. But so check out Jeff's stand-up comedy routine. Check out Jeff's podcast. And my gosh, you have got so much content out there that's free and available for people to learn, to see whether or not they want to have a conversation with you about possibly working with you. But thank you so much for being on today. You're a breath of fresh air in the realm of sales that you know, just goes to show it's not a bad, you know, sales is not a bad word. It can make a difference for people, and it can move the world forward. So thank you, my friend. You have a great one.
Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to Inspiring Business with your host, Mark Bullock. Your positive comments, likes, and most importantly, your sharing of this show with others is greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to the Inspiring Business Podcast on whatever platform you prefer. You can catch prior episodes on videosocials.net and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the major podcast platforms.